Brandon, Jess, good to see you both. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Happy to be here.
Spooky season, best time of the year. Let's be honest.
I
Yeah.
know, it's awesome.
Brandon, we're talking about Night of the Reaper, available now on Shudder. Here's the deal, right? Like you're doing so many amazing, incredible things in the genre of horror right now, and I'm wondering though, is like there's gonna be some things that work that you're gonna do with past projects for Night of the Reaper, but was there anything different or specific with this project, mindset wise, idea wise, compared to others that you kind of put into play specifically?
Yeah, I mean, the big thing about this one was just trying to nail the period, right? Because this is the first time I've ever done the 80s, and there's been a lot of attempts at 80s and indie films, and it doesn't always translate that well. And so that was my biggest fear going into this was just how am I going to be able to use this limited budget and still convey that sense of place and time that is, it's pretty challenging because you go down most streets now, even if they're built in the 60s, there's inevitably every third house is going to be like demoed and rebuilt as some modern monstrosity. So, it just put a lot of stress on the pre-production of just finding locations that would work and fit this period without us having to do any extra work because, we just don't have the money for that. But,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think that was the biggest thing because usually I can just find locations and shoot, but here we had to find locations that fit a particular thing, and if it didn't fit it 100%, we had to go in and transform it, and that's, if you've got Hollywood money, it's not a big deal, but when you don't and you're just like doing Goodwill, shopping sprees, it's a little bit more difficult. So I think that was probably the biggest challenge going in.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's super well said. And Jess, good to see you.
Good to
Um,
see you.
and I did want to kind of ask you in regards to what Brandon said about, going back in time, the 80s and everything. Like, what is that mindset like for a project for you from an acting storyteller perspective? Are you thinking about kind of the aesthetic? Are you thinking about the kind of how your character is gonna like speak and react? Like, what's that kind of mindset about going back in time for a role?
I think it is really more of just like a mental space. Luckily I had done 80s before and 70s and I'd done some period stuff. And so yeah, I had been to that kind of mental space before where your first instinct is not to grab your cell phone.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And yeah, I think it was made really easy for me to kind of step back into that because we were filming in a house that wasn't a real house. It was a movie house. And so there really wasn't a great amount of voltage. We could like use a hair dryer or put the heat on. And yeah, and like there was really bad cell service anyway. And then, everybody wearing everything that they were wearing.
Production
Plus
value,
that,
right?
yeah,
Hmm.
honestly, yeah, it honestly helped a lot. So I think, yeah, it was just kind of a space that I got to live in whenever we were rolling that I didn't have to do much work, to be honest.
No, absolutely. Brandon, I am curious because you know, horror movies have been around for a while. There's been this kind of, last decade like surge. Specifically, I'd say like, last 5 years, like unbelievable elevation of the genre where there's new ways to scare
Hmm.
people. There's different kind of creative, just like yourselves, like pumping out these movies consistently. I'm curious if you think about the scale of where the genre is right now when you're kind of developing and writing these movies, or is that something you try not to do because you just want to focus just on project by project? But the scale's insane right now.
Yeah, I mean, are you meaning the scale in just like the volume of films or in the
Volume of
scale of
films, but
like
also the
building up the
volume
film?
of like quality, the volume of different kind of innovation, like just
Right,
everything's popular now. Like everything's
right.
heightened basically.
Yeah. I think the big thing for me is just like I'm an indie director, I'm an indie filmmaker, so I have to write for that, like I can't do things that other people can do if they have more money. Like this is like a personal choice is that I could spend the next 5 years trying to get a studio picture off the ground, pitching and doing all this stuff, finding the agent, doing like this whole long thing, but at the end of the day, I just want to make movies. Like I would rather just be making movies and being able to control that aspect of it than having to spend all this time doing everything but make a movie. I've got friends that have been chasing Hollywood for, the better half of a decade and they don't really have a ton to show for it except for, they make some money because they're developing projects, but they don't ever make anything.
Mhm.
And to me, like I would rather just be on set on $100,000 movie than trying to get onto $100 million movie. And eventually maybe one will lead to the other. But for me, I just try and keep the scale of the project to something that I can personally manage with the money that we have, so you can kind of build from that or whatever. And you can, you're always going to take swings. Like there's certain things that you want to add. Like the 80s on this, that was the swing with this project is like, can we do it for the money? But yeah, I mean, there's it's great because the industry has expanded so much that there's no like gatekeeping movies anymore. Like you can just look, you're like, oh, I don't like the movies on Netflix. I'll go over to Hulu. Oh, I don't like the Hulu. I'm gonna go to Shudder. I'm gonna, whatever. There's so many options for everybody. So I think there is a place for every project nowadays.
Mhm.
And so that's cool. It's cool to have your kind of your little niche that you've carved out. And I've been fortunate to have that.
There's a lot of movies, and I feel like spooky season's the perfect time to like catch up on things. And I'm
Hmm.
gonna just give a little PSA right now to everyone that I mean, you have a lot of amazing films, but one of my favorite, like your Superhost is like one of my favorite like horror films, and that's one of your films, which is crazy. I
Cool.
love that film so much. I think like I know that one leans in the comedy a little bit more, but I generally feel like that's just a terrifying film. I don't know. Like it's just like I didn't see it. Like I didn't think it was that funny, if that makes sense. I was just terrified the
Sure.
whole time.
Right. That's cool. Yeah, that was a fun one. I
Yeah.
loved making that movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Jess, I do want to kind of ask because it's funny. I think the coolest thing to hear from, an actor perspective is there are some actors out there that cannot like they can't watch like scary movies. They get too scared and everything, right? And then going and actually like making a film, like making a horror movie, they could do that. But as like fans of the culture, like they like of the content, they can't do it. Like they get too scared. And I'm wondering with this film because there are some scenes that I feel like maybe you're not thinking about it, but might be really creepy with the phone call scenes and like alone in the house and everything. Did it feel really like scared, like making some of these, or like did you not think about that at all? Like some like from the fear perspective.
Yeah, I think for the most part, I felt like I could see it from the audience's perspective. So the fact that I got to be in control of the suspense helped it not be so scary for me and more like just exciting. But there were definitely some moments. I mean, that house itself was quite creepy. So
Mhm.
whenever they did shots from outside looking in and I had to be inside by myself, or if I like left my coat upstairs and everybody's downstairs, like I'm not going upstairs alone. Somebody had to come with me. The place was creepy on its own. There were noises all the time. That mannequin just like was always in any room that you went to for some reason. Um, so it was more so like whenever I was alone. But when I was filming, it was nice because I was with people and I was in control of the fear factor.
Mhm. I'm kind of, I missed you guys on the official press day for this because I was at TIFF and it was just nonstop. But what does it feel like now? Like I'm just throwing it to both of you. Like the film's out. Like you're doing those. Like it's always weird to do those like those blocks before the film is out because like
Hmm.
you know what it's gonna be like, but like you
Right.
don't know. Like some of the press have seen it obviously, but it's like not a big kind of amount of people have seen it. But like what's it been like now, Brad? Like it's out there, like specifically.
It's cool. I mean, you can tell that there's a lot of people that got what we're going for,
Yeah.
like they love the vibes, the Halloween streets, like all this stuff that we jam-packed in there has been received really well, like it's a super
Mhm.
vibey film and I think that's going to contribute to having rewatchability for a lot of people. But no, it's been cool to see just so many people, like you look on Letterboxd, IMDb, all these things, like people just get it and they not everybody, but that happens. But it's like
Yeah.
the people that do and they kind of got what we were trying to do and like because this is a very comfortable movie. It's a very familiar movie until it's not. And then when it takes that turn, it's like the audience is either with or without you and I think most of them are with us.
Well, you're reinventing the wheel with this one, and again, I don't want to really like go into big spoilers because like I know it's out now, but like I still like
Hmm.
people going in fresh. But you definitely are doing some things that like we're used to, but then nope, you kind of swerve us a little bit,
Right.
and you're doing different things, and I think it's great in this. And is just like reading those elements in the script, right, where you think you know where it's going, and then you don't. What's that script to screen like journey for you? Like what's it like reading Night of the Reaper, those elements I just kind of brought up and then seeing it come to life while you get into production, so to speak?
Yeah, well, like when I first read it, yeah, I felt like I kind of knew where it was going. I had read some scripts like that before, uh, and and then it got to a certain point where honestly, before things change, it got to a point where I was like, this is it's going a little too far for a
Mhm.
second, and I was like, oh, I think you're losing me. And then it switched and I was like, oh my God, like I did not see that coming at all. So I actually, it was kind of fun because for me, I started kind of going like this and then it made the uphill like whew, huge. So I got really excited at that point. And then, yeah, it was just about like, how do we, how do we give the audience kind of the same experience
Hmm.
on screen? Because it is different
Mhm.
than when you're reading it because you have really no idea where it's going when you just have the words. And I know Brandon had to like really, really massage that part to
Yeah.
make sure that it was experienced the same way that it was experienced when I read it. And I
Yeah.
think now like it's got a really great reaction every single time.
Mhm.
Okay, so Brandon, I actually have a question I just thought right now that I legit like I've interviewed so many kind of directors and horror. Like I've never asked someone this before, and I'm really excited
Sure.
about this. And that you might your answer to this might straight up be like, no, not at all. But I'm gonna go for it. Okay. I've been thinking about this. It's really interesting, right? Because you make these films, and like a lot of these films, you wrote them and you directed them. And is that your brother that you write with as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, so like you have those films, you have a bunch of them, right? And some are more received than others, and then some you have certain experiences with them. And I'm
Mhm.
wondering if like the popularity or like interest or like certain things you see on Letterboxd or certain reviews, does that kind of like elevate your kind of love for that project compared to others? Like does like the reaction and
Mm.
reception of a movie, because that's its own thing, right? Like in
Right.
regards to your experience, and you're a director, right? Like so
Yeah.
sometimes certain things might not be the way you wanted, but I'm wondering if the reception of the film ever kind of allows you to like to bump up a movie in the rankings of like your favorite films you've ever done. Might not at all, but I'm just curious about that.
That's a really interesting question. I mean, I've like my last film, The Puppet Man, it had a very short festival season, like one festival before it came out because of the release date. And the first festival it won Best Film, and so I was like, oh, okay, cool. I didn't completely fuck this up. Can I swear? Is that cool?
You can fucking
But
swear,
okay,
absolutely.
cool. And then the movie came out and it totally bombed. No one watched it. It was like a total disaster release, and it was just like there were reasons for that I won't get into, but it definitely soured me on the project a lot, and it was
Yep.
just like kind of a bummer because I thought I did some cool stuff in there. That was the hardest movie I've ever done at that point at that time. But yeah, I mean, it just kind of as time has gone on, the favorability of that film has continued to go down, and things like Superhost and Z, they've stayed more relevant for my career. So it's interesting with this one. I actually think this might be the one movie that kind of stays longer because of these Halloween watch lists and stuff like that. Like I could
Absolutely.
see it becoming a thing that people kind of return to yearly. And that would be an amazing accomplishment for sure. But I
Yep.
think, right now it's still too early to say. There's a lot of excitement on both sides, and it's
Yep.
just, it's fun to sort of see the reactions and see what people are saying. But yeah, I definitely do think the narrative can change how I
Yep.
feel about a movie. But I'm super proud of everything. The making of the movie itself is my favorite part. Like the release is just something you have to go through.
Getting
But
anything done is incredible. You made so many films, man. That's just its
yeah.
own thing, man. Congrats.
Yeah. And since I'm like so tightly tied into these things, like I'm directing, I'm editing, I'm doing VFX, all that
Yes.
shit, it is I'm very close to every film. And so when I put it out there, it is just like, if someone doesn't like it, it is you're just like, ah, because I did, I can't blame anybody but myself because I'm ultimately the guy doing all the decisions and stuff like that. There's no like Shutter's not being like, cut this, cut that, do all the things. Like they're
Yeah.
very chill. And so if I make a decision, I have to stand by it and, for better or worse. So it's tough. It can be tough.
I've said this before. Like for me, like I'm a big horror movie fan. Shudder is like my Eras tour, my Taylor Swift. Like I'm like the biggest Shudder person. Like
Nice.
Shudder is just like they're incredible curators. I will like every time there's a new movie, I literally watched them all. Like I don't think
Yeah,
I missed a Shudder movie. You know what I mean? But like I
that's
love
cool.
Shudder, and I'm so happy that this film is on Shudder. Jess, I had to do a refresh because I s- I got this like quite a bit ago. Like I bumped into you at a TIFF party, and I was like, I saw it already. But I did kind of want to ask, like, how separate are past things or past projects for you, like compared to like something like a Night of the Reaper? Like, I'm not sure, like projects like doing it or Gen V. I don't know if they were shot before or after Night of the Reaper. But like, do you bring mindsets of preparations for past projects to current projects, or are they like completely separate once you wrap them?
That's a cool question. I find that every time I kind of get to know a new character, they kind of live as almost like a little like new archetype for me.
Mhm.
And then when I am introduced to a different character, whether it's for an audition or something, a new project I'm working on, um, if I can find a little sliver of one of my old characters in there, then it's easy for me to be like, oh, like there's a little bit of Deena in this character. This character is a mix of Fanny and Harper. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So that's kind of fun because I get to know a little bit of their mindset already. And I had done the film Lucky Weekend. I filmed it before this, um, and I found that there were a couple similarities between my character Katie and that, and Deena in this, just in terms of like the kind of introverted, over analytical brain, but you have no idea what's going on uh, beyond that because it's all
Mhm.
happening in here. So that was kind of fun. Um, but no, I think I hadn't played a character with such a, I feel like I can't say that, with two very distinct sides, I guess.
Mhm. No, absolutely. No,
Yeah.
that's well said. No, for sure. I mean, it's just Clement. Like you're going project to project, so like it's like you're gonna naturally like things are gonna be brought project to project. But I just find like if it's something like completely different, whether it's like the amount of time on a project, like if it's a couple of days, or if like the worlds are completely different, maybe they're like completely separate. So that's what I
Yeah, I mean, I was
always, yeah,
doing Gen V while we were doing Reaper,
yeah.
and because I remember they were doing episode 7, and we were on the fence whether I was going to do episode 7 or not,
Hmm.
and so that's why I remember we took so long to close with this one because
Mhm.
we were like, can I do it?
Yeah.
And it was whiplash, really, going from that project to this one, and then I went back for episode 8, and it's just like Gen V being like a network show, it's kind of like as corporate as a creative industry gets, and I really am just like a piece of the
Mhm.
puzzle, and then to be able to come onto this set and just like feel like I had so much more autonomy
Mhm.
and say, and it wasn't it wasn't cushy. That's not what I wanted. I wanted to like get down and dirty with everyone, and it's called Night of the Reaper. Like I was ready to be, dragged through the mud and cold and running outside at night. Like, yeah, I was ready for that, and I got all of that, and I feel like honestly, it filled my tank
Oh,
even
absolutely.
more.
One more question for you, Brandon, then one more for you, Jess, and then we'll wrap this up. Brandon, I did want to kind of ask, the editing is interesting, right? Because jump scares can make or break a film. Sometimes, in horror, sometimes people are like, oh, these are cheap jump scares, there's not a lot.
Mhm.
Sometimes like jump scares completely miss the boat and everything. Given that you have edited films, I want to know what your kind of take is on the jump scares in kind of horror films, because we are seeing ways like to scare people without the jump scares. A lot of your films
Mhm.
do have jump scares. I'm just wondering what you could tell me about jump scares, in your opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to prefer just like atmospheric horror, like, the quiet nights and stuff like that. And just like, I do a lot of split screen frames where, Dina's on the phone, but you can see down the long hallway behind her on the right side of the frame. And the audience is like, okay, she's only doing this one thing, but my eye's over here because something could pop out. But with jump scares, I mean, they're tough because horror fans, I feel like, are split on it. So if you loaded a film with jump scares, some people are gonna be like, "That was amazing! It was so much fun." But
Yep.
then other people are like, "Just relies on loud noises and jump scares. I hated it." And so there's like there, and that's just the genre. It just is what it is. But I try and have like one or two per film that
Yeah.
will kind of stand out. Like in Z, you have the stair scene. With Superhost, you have like the knife in the head. Puppet Man didn't. It has like one, but it's
Super horrors
whatever.
when you first meet the host is a jump scare in my opinion. When
For
Osprey's
sure.
like looking and then
Yeah.
you don't see
Yeah.
her, that scared the
For
crap out of
sure.
me.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But with Reaper, like because of what we're doing and because the Deena's story doesn't really get scary until like minute 40, something like
Totally.
that. And so you've got about 30 minutes of setting her up and doing all the things, and you have to kind of embed something in there to keep audiences on their toes. So you have things like the mannequin, and you have things like looking out the window, and oh, it's I don't like it. There's too many hiding spots. You've got these slow things building just to because all end of the day you need to keep the audience's attention. Even if you're not throwing jump scares at them, you've got to give them something to think about. And so that was what was nice about having the tapes and stuff like that, is we could put the horror and lean on that for that, and then come back to Deena, and when those tapes are done, her stuff gets totally more insane and stuff like that. But I mean, jump scares themselves, they're really tough because the sound and the visuals have to match perfectly.
Yep.
It's like frame accurate. If you're a frame off, it doesn't work as well as it would. And, sometimes you'll be watching and you think it's great, and then you watch it with a crowd and you're like, oh my God, I'm 2 frames off. And you just like, the impact's lost.
Oh,
And that's a bummer. So it's, we don't have test audiences. We can't ask people, hey, what did you think of that jump scare or whatever. You just have to rely on instincts because we're an indie and it just is what it is. Like 5 people saw this movie before the first audience did. And, you just have to rely on your gut instincts for it.
10 out of 10 answer. As a filmmaker and nerd of horror, I love that answer because like you also edit your films too. So I wanted to know what
Hmm.
your opinion on that because you're so like into them. And what you said literally is like right down the middle. Like there are horror fans that like love jump scares and then some are like,
Hmm.
oh, there's too many. Like, so for sure. And then Jess, I did want to kind of ask, you did mention Gen V and everything. The new season kind of episodes are rolling out and everything. I kind of want to just know about if you could just take a time to like reflect on like that fan base, that global fan base, like what's your experience been like with just seeing like the Gen V fans like from all around the world specifically and like the boys fans that are watching Gen V? Like I'm just curious about that
Mm.
for you.
Yeah, I hadn't really been exposed to it in season one because my character was so tail girl. And so yeah, I have learned new terms. I didn't know what OP meant for a very long time, and now everybody's saying that. And yeah, I mean, it's really cool because the fans like they know these stories inside and out, and like they bring up things that I didn't even think about when I was on set and I was like analyzing the script. So they're amazing. They're super super committed, and so far it's all been love, which is really really nice. And it's kind of cool to see how I people overlap a little bit because it's an action packed kind of horror thing. And so a lot of that audience has now, because of I've been posting about Night of the Reaper like nobody's business. They've seen that that's something that I have coming out, and then they'll check that out and they like that too. And I'm like, oh yes, like I love when there's a little overlap, and when
Mhm.
people kind of comment on Gen V being like, I love Night of the Reaper, vice versa. Yeah, it's really exciting to see. Yeah, people actually care about your character.
Absolutely. And I'm super stoked about Night of the Reaper, and I'm happy for both of you. And it will be part of horror movie marathons for years to come. And we'll make sure of it at Pop Turner. We always like this is our time to shine. We love horror movies. So
Yeah.
like we always do the recommendations. Brian and Jess, so great to see you both. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Pete.
man.
This has been Pop Turn at youtube.com/Pop Turn for previous episodes. Until next time, so just Clement and Brandon Christensen and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.